Greetings and salutations, yet again, Earthlings. So it is June 16th, and it has been a very odd day. It's been a very odd several days, actually. Okay, it's been a very odd several years. Really. Okay. Since, like, those eclipses back in 2017, 2018 or something like that. It's like when everything was kind of set off. Was after I was... Alright, so I was trying to talk about it on the earlier, my death experience. When I was sent back, I had cancer, thyroid cancer, follicular, and they went in July. What was it? July 19th. I think they went. Yeah. I went in like July 19th. It was my grandbaby's birthday. Yeah. And then August 20th, they went in and took the other half because they had found breaks in the encasement. And because it was follicular, which means it gets into blood. It's not lost on me. In the blood. One of the odd times that I got sick. And they almost medevaced me because I went to the hospital in Nassauatics. And they couldn't figure out what... It was kind of like the doctor show house. I couldn't figure out what the fuck it was. And they chalked it up to being a staph infection in my blood because what had happened was... So, look at here. We were the first crew to work McDonald's on that little island of Chincoteague. Yeah, I was one of the first crew members to build that McDonald's there when Mr. Bill Bailey owned it. Pretty sure his name was Bill Bailey. I'm positive his name was Bill Bailey. Wonderful gentleman. Got a fine education out of about work ethics, as that being my first job when I was 17 turning 18. And that's where I met the father of my children's husband. Because when my dad got out of the... Okay, what happened was my aunt married this fellow who went into the Coast Guard. And he got stationed there at Chincoteague. And my aunt was pregnant, and I was out of school, and she was pregnant with her second child, and when she was going into labor, me being there would help. And that's not the first time that I had babysat for my cousin. Yeah. Summertime I would go when they were in Newbern before he went into the Coast Guard. I would go and I would spend the summer and I'd babysit, and it would just help them, and I got to hang out, and it was cool hanging out with them. It was a lot of fun. So, love my Aunt Dito. So, anyway, so I went to visit them, and my second cousin was born, And I hung out with my first cousin, and who had an imaginary friend called Toonie. 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 Schrodinger's radio. It's not lost on me in my weirdo family. Seriously. So, and then my dad and mom brought me up while he was still stationed. He was he was promoted to sergeant major, and he had been acting sergeant major for a little while. But anyway, he didn't have enough time in as acting sergeant major when he got out to retire as sergeant major, if I'm not mistaken. But when he retired, he was the acting sergeant major, the largest, most highly decorated up to that point Lima company that Camp Lejeune had seen at that point in time. So anyway, I'm very proud to be his daughter. I always found it weird that I had put posts on different sites wanting to know about people that had served with my dad. And oddly enough, nobody ever come forward. I thought that was always very, very odd. Because my dad was very highly thought of by everybody. Seriously, he was a damn fine Marine. And he was very thoughtful in what he said. And when he said something, it was worth listening to. And he was funny. And he was very talented. So Cancer, he's very peaceful. So, but he was an asshole too. He will fuck somebody up quick. A Cancer, you get too close and... Excuse me? And when a Cancer, when that crab gets a hold of you, you don't have a whole lot of options here. This is not going to end well for one of us. But I can guarantee you I can get out of this quicker than you can. Because I can detach that arm and go grow another one, motherfucker. Anyway. That's kind of just hello. Mental mindsets that you get into when you work with energies. Tapping into the different things, and that's why I think the ancestors set it up that way. Okay, alright. Where are we going with this? Because I was telling earlier about when I die, okay? Why am I having to tell about Dad having to get special permission from the Pentagon to retire? And then he went right from there to being a security guard at NASA there on Wallops Island. And we were there until the kid's dad and I were married. And then, of course, as soon as we got married. We got married January 27th, 1989. And my daughter was supposed to have been born Halloween. That was her due date, Halloween 1989. But unfortunately, I got so sick with toxemia. Oh, that's right. I was telling about that weird thing that happened while we were there. Okay. First crew at McDonald's there. The first manager, her name was Ramona. And there was Ramona and Laura and Patty and Lori and my Aunt Diana, and another, was his name Grant? No, his name was not Grant. It was another gentleman. That was the manager there. I don't know why I wanted to call him. Anyway, didn't much matter. I met some interesting people working there. Bob Jack and his cousin Tilly. Bob Jack! Ah! Kedrick. Ah! Randy. Dave Fleck. Who went on to, he went to college and went on to be a chiropractor. I think he wound up down in Florida. Highfalutin down there. Yeah, good people. I think he went to Japan for a while too. He was amazing. Yeah, he was my roommate for, mine and Bud's roommate for a little while. Anyway, we had an interesting time. Anyway, living there on Shinkatig. Alright. The weird sickness thing. Because Doc Amron was the island doctor. And he was one of the last. Yeah, one of the last that would make it. He made house calls for certain of us. He was amazing. Doc Amron was old school. Come across as very gruff and the fuck are you doing back in my office? Hypochondriac! Got other shit to do besides what? No! I love Doc Amron. And that was usually my mom and him. They busted each other's chops. It was funny. And then he would bust my chops too when he would come. Because there was certain of them, like Pete Krasinski is an old army dude. Oh, I love when the old fellas would come in the morning. I'd talk junk to all of them. Pete and Doc Amron were my favorite to pick at. Ah! Oh, I loved harassing them. Yeah. Interesting people that wound up migrating and settling around Shinkatig, Aztec Island, and Wallops Island, NASA location. Anyway, alright, so what had happened is we were working in that first pony pinning, y'all. Woo! 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 Whooped my. Okay, so we order takers back when we had runners and. Cause y'all. Talking about meh chaos anyway. Anyway, yeah, it got to the point that I couldn't even talk. And Dave got to the point was, can she take your order? And I would, because I got to the point I couldn't even talk. But we handle business. Take care of it. Anyway, badass. Anyway, had a lot of fun. God, we had so much fun. Because what happened was, we had a little apartment right off the edge of what was considered Shinkatig city limit, and the cops couldn't come outside of that area. So to get cops to come out, they would have to call Accomack County, which was about an hour and a half or so away. So they really wouldn't be bothering with a bunch of teenagers having a party, especially when we weren't bothering nobody. I mean, we were just kind of rowdy, and the music, our boombox wasn't that freaking loud. I mean, it was not. I mean, it was a boombox. But we packed a whole lot of people in that tiny one-bedroom apartment anyway. A lot of times we just be sitting, fixing to watch a movie, and all of a sudden there'd be a knock on the door, and open it up, and there'd be a line of people with beer and, party at your place! Okay. Cool. Yeah. We had a lot. Yeah, me and Bud had a lot of fun. Had a lot of cool friends. Like John Chauffeur. I referred, we called him Roach because, well, if he didn't have a doobie or hash or something to smoke, he at least had a roach to share. So, yeah, he was one of my best friends. Virgo. Yeah. Cool little Italian kid from New York. So, yeah, he was a foster kid that wound up with his foster brother Binky and his family that migrated from New York. Really cool people. He worked for the Greeks there at, anyway, some of the I miss my steak sandwiches from the Greeks there. I'm going towards acetate. God, I wonder whatever happened to Timmy. God bless cheesecake. Timmy was, you talk about a mad scientist. Timmy had a cat named Cheesecake. I swear he may have sent her to another dimension. I'm not kidding. And I've got witnesses that will absolutely advise. God, Jesus. Okay, so they had a copy of one of Tesla's. How they had it, I don't know. I know that Pop was in the Air Force and he was one of the first over in Vietnam to get intelligence set up over there before anybody else went in country. So it's not a secret. So anyway, that's how it was so easy for Bud to get into cryptographic maintenance and installations. I'm just saying. It's public knowledge. It's not nothing top secret. Just saying they had clearance, and I mean they had clearance for reasons. Dad too. Anyway. So anyway. Brilliant and Michelle, why are we talking about the whole? It's important to talk about the fact that we went swimming in that pool because, hello, we were celebrating having survived pony pinning. So as soon as things calmed down with the tourists a little bit, we were able to sneak into the motel pool next. And we just swam in the pool. There was just like 3 of us, so we weren't really bothering anybody. And we were teenagers, so they couldn't prove that we weren't with. There was so many people. So, and as long as we didn't bother. And so we swam in the pool, but I scraped my toe on the bottom of the pool. And all of a sudden, I got so sick. And wound up in a hospital. I don't know that it was from my toe getting scraped, but it was the weirdest thing. And they were going to medevac me across to the naval base over there to try to figure out what was going on with me. So it was very odd. And then they somehow figured out it was from where I scraped my toe on the bottom of the pool, and I got a staph infection in the blood. Anyway. Very odd. And then it wasn't long after that that I got pregnant with my daughter. I mean, it wasn't all that long after that we got married. So January 27th, and then she was supposed to be born October 31st. But I was so sick with toxemia and stuff, and I had been bedridden from the time I was about 3.5 months pregnant, 4 months pregnant. I couldn't even get up to watch TV. They wanted me laying completely on my left side. So that's when we did a lot of reading. And I would read out loud to her too. And we'd have conversations, and she would answer. She would roll around and boop. I'd say something, and she'd be in there going boop boop with either her fist or her foot or whatever. So anyway, so we would develop toxemia so bad that the headaches and my blood pressure would spike so bad, and I was retaining so much water from, I don't know, it was so weird. So they hospitalized me October 1st, and they kept watch on us until Dr. Carter felt she was developed enough and safe, and we were both clear and safe enough and strong enough to be induced. So he induced labor, and she was born October 11th. So it was 1989. So if you put the year first, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's her birthday. So, and I'm telling you, when she was born, for the first hour, her eyes were lavender. They glowed like lavender. They glowed. They were beautiful. But it didn't last long. They turned brown pretty quick. So, and then when they took her to the nursery, and her mama's house and papa's house were out there Google-eyed over her, she got mad because she wanted to be back with me and Bud. And she threw such a shoo-shoo fit, she flipped her little self over. Mom All's house, tell you, she flipped herself right over. Babies ain't supposed to be doing that. She's mad. My mama. Anyway. Alright. Why am I being led to this? Something about healing the mother wounds and the father wounds is so imperative right now. And it's so imperative for us to stay in our peace. It's the testings right now, y'all. It's no wonder that we were given toys like Weeble Wobbles as kids. Seriously. They weeble and they wobble, but they don't fall down. Kitty babies. And we were given Fred Rogers. How beautiful we had those kind of influences when so much was going on. Love always wins, and is always more important. So, alright, I was talking about when I passed, I had the thyroid cancer. I had 2 surgeries back to back. But before that, I've been dealing with degenerative discs in my neck and in my back really bad. So, and I was a dispatcher, and I wore a headset, and I worked at a monitoring station. I dispatched police, fire, and medical for alarms that came in. I wasn't direct 911 dispatch, but I was, and I thank God for that, because I, as an empath, trying to work dispatch just as an alarm monitoring station operator was hard enough, because there was instances that I had um, armed robbers. They had showed up. There was a break in, and he showed up, and the man had a gun. He was legally armed to carry, so he had concealed carry. But when you are responding to an emergency situation and the police know that there is an actual break-in that has been reported, and you are not sure what's going on, but somebody's there with a gun, but you don't know it is a key holder that's there to meet the police because it was broken. It's not the actual robber, but they don't know that. So you got to make sure that you get all the information. He just so happened to tell. He's like, well, the police ain't here yet. And I said, well, please don't go in there, because. And he says, I'm not worried. I'm armed. And I'm like, oh dear Lord, you make sure you stay in that car and let me get the police on the line and let them know you are there. I said, he says, can he identify that he was legal concealed to carry? It's like, well, that's things I need to let the police know right now. So, yeah, you got to be very mindful, because somebody's livelihood, their everything depended on me being able to respond. So I took that very, very much to heart and very seriously, because I have to live with myself. And if I didn't do the very best job I could and try to treat each one as an actual, although, dear Lord, full moons, y'all, people, they ain't no joke. People is crazy during full moons. Scientifically proven. We had more people get drunk and do. And if it was bad weather, oh Lord, y'all, if it was bad weather, windstorms and things like that, dear Lord. Yeah. Alright, so anyway, why was I led to tell all that? It's odd. Mother wounds. Mother wounds. Mother wounds. Very odd. Why is that hitting my spidey senses? Okay, so what had happened was earlier when I was having my flow and I was starting to tell about my death experience, and when I was snagged on the way back from heaven, because when I died, there's a lot of extenuating circumstances to that. When my thyroid was completely removed, nobody took into consideration that thyroid's one of the things that metabolizes things in your body. Well, they took all of it, and nobody took that into consideration. And not only was I left on all those medications, but I had so much more added to it, on top of oral radiation. And here I am, determined to try to go back to work, because I loved that job. I loved that job. It was hard putting up with a lot of office politics and things that shouldn't have been allowed, especially in that work. When you got people's lives at risk, and you got people that thrive on drama and keeping crap stirred up and swinging dick contest, and there is only 2 men. Well, there was some men. It was mostly catty females. Look, I'm here to try to do the best job I can and earn this paycheck. I loved earning. If I had to be away from my kids, I wanted to be doing something I loved and enjoyed, and helping people and feeling like I earned it. I learned an excellent work ethic from Mr. Bill Bailey, the first owner of Shinkatig's first McDonald's. Yes, I did. Fine people. Fine people. I think he was if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a airplane pilot in World War II. I'm pretty sure he was military. I'm telling you. I might be mistaken, but something about that definitely. Anyway, I work with a bunch of interesting people. So, and there was a lot of interesting people that came through Shinkatig too. Linda Lavin, my mom played bingo with Linda Lavin. Alan Alda had to play. He'd come around often. The there was always somebody coming through. My brother Scott partied with ZZ Top, one of the ZZ Top brothers. They're at Chatty's. He ran around partying in a limo and shit. My brother, because my mom and my brother, they just never met any strangers, and so my brother Chris is that way too. He's the one that races. So he races out of Rock Hill, and he's run at Martinsville and stuff too. But he used to run all the time there at the Newbern Drag Strip. Growing up, as a family, we used to go watch him race. It was awesome. Him and Mark Cantrell, and his sister was Susie Q, Dewilla Cantrell, Susie Q. I used to call her, aggravate her all the time. So anyway. Okay. Reel it back in. Alright. So what happened was, when they took all of my thyroid, I tried to go back to work, and I had my station, and I had to sit and try to. One of the things, I was at risk of never being able to talk again, and I made my livelihood from talking. I made good money sitting on my butt and helping people best I could. So anyway, but yeah, I was very at risk of never being able to speak again. So it's kind of scary for me. But God bless me. Got me through it. It was a scary time. I was determined to go back to work. And I probably pushed it too soon. As soon as they cleared me after the radiation, as soon as it was safe to not be toxic and contaminate others. Because I had to be segregated and isolated because I was radioactive for a while. So as soon as it was okay for me to go back to work, I pushed a little too hard probably, because it was a small company, and one of us being out, well, it really does not bode well for others having to pick up the slack, and having to pull double times and things like that, and pulling extra shifts, and it was in July and August, right when everybody wanted to have all these vacations, and anyway, so I went back, and I had all 2 back-to-back surgeries and all that in my system, and I was on so much heavy stuff, and then the stuff with my neck when I was trying to sit for all those hours and dispatch, and I got all this trauma here and that, and I'm trying to, and then I'm working in negativity. With resentful people that I like to go in and keep I like to work. I was there to work. I wasn't there to participate in nasty cattiness or drama or dick swingings or whatever. And I could walk in a room and feel it. Ugh. Who is menstruating and bringing their shoe in here that doesn't belong in here? Yeah, those are the types of jobs you got to have certain people that can separate. Leave your home at home. We are here to work and make it as pleasant as possible. And don't take crap personal and don't make it a contest. Anyway. Stop sniveling and crying over every freaking thing for attention. And taking credit that you shouldn't have. Anyway, really did. Alright, so yeah, I am one of those I calls it like I sees it. I don't give a fuck. And I have a hard time hiding my expression. Are you stupid? Are you really being that rude? What does that have to do with us being in here earning our paycheck? That ain't got nothing to do with the job we're supposed to be in here doing. But assassinate my character and where. Anyway. Yeah, it was a lot of hard stuff to deal with, and those are things I release. I forgive. Woo! All the time I'm living with somebody that wants nature to take its, because they had insurance on me. A lot of ulterior motives. A lot of interesting things that I was dealing with at that time. Yeah, luckily I've got my mom still alive and a witness to that. My kids were witness to that too. No matter anyway, okay. So yeah. So I was on a lot of heavy, and then I started with the migraine. And I had to get my then husband to come get me, because there was no way I'd have been able to drive. And he took me to the emergency room, and they shot me full of Dilaudid. And it barely even. So anyway, I wound up I my body took I had 2 back-to-back surgeries here, and then I had that, and the pain, and the migraine, and I couldn't, and my body trying to adapt to not having the thyroid, and I had so much pain, and I had all that radiation, and I couldn't take anymore. trying to get back to work. And then I had so much stress with the co-workers and the husband and all. It was so yeah. And then between all the medications, I couldn't. Anyway, so I died, and it came before God. There's more to the story, but I'm trying to shorten it because it's anyway. I died and I went before God, and all I remember of heaven is I know that a minute there was like 1,000 years. But it was like a minute here on earth. But it was like 1,000 years there. And I saw everybody. I know I had visited with everybody and I was a part of everything and it was a big party. But the only thing that I'm allowed to remember about any of it is an impression of I went before Father and he was in a garden and he came and I was presented to him and he came forward, came through as a seed within the earth. Was what I was perceiving him as. It's how he came through he was a beautiful seed within the earth, with a heartbeat within the earth. But it wasn't the earth, it was the center of everything. Because he is the cornerstone, the seed of everything, every tangible, anything. He is all. And then the next, that's all I'm allowed to remember is that impression of him as a seed within the earth. And then all I can really remember was the light, the beautiful. And this is how my energy feels. My aura is to me. My connection with Father. It is my happy and it's how I felt heaven's light. It's every little happy and beautiful and yummy and connected with everything and everyone that ever was and will be. It was pixie dust magic is how it felt. But I was, and as I was experiencing that, the impression I was given was, you have to go back. You have to go back. So, and that was in 2013. And then, yeah, it's been weird ever since. That was a very, very weird experience. I spent 3 days at Forsyth Hospital, in the emergency room. After I was discharged, I was on life support for like 5 days, and then they discharged me, and I wound up over at Forsyth at their emergency room for 3 days before I was sent to Hickory, because I had to be all that medication, that I had been taking, had to be taken off all of that and be adjusted. And that was an interesting experience. Because I was rooming with this woman that told me she had a demon. Some scary fucking shit. And she just couldn't wait for me to go to sleep. I was like, hold on a minute. Took myself to the front desk. Nurse's station. I said, excuse me. Roommate just informed me that she has a demon. Now look. As you can see, I am not in a position to defend myself. But if she has issues like that, then I kindly and respectfully request that somebody put her in a different room, or me, or can I sleep out here where you can watch me? I'm pretty tired at this point and I need to heal. Anyway, I don't think that I said that, but anyway, yeah, they got her out of that room. So, and then they monitored me coming off all those meds and adjusted all those. So, yeah, it was they had an internal, a doctor that oversees all the body. All of it, not just a part of it, not specializing, but all of the body and how all of it works together. Anyway, so yeah, I died and was sent back, but on the way back to my body when God told me I had to come back, I was snagged by the devil. And he come through as the red guy, the red alien guy from Green Lantern. The movie I'm talking about, Green Lantern with I love him. He's so funny. Anyway, you know the actor I'm talking about. He was in The Proposal with my beloved Sandra Bullock. So, anyway, the red guy, he come through because when I saw Green Lantern and saw that red guy, my inner child associated him with the devil, because for whatever reason that was always the description that he was described as, is a red evil looking. And I didn't really see that as scary. I always saw the people around me that pretended to be so nice. I saw them as that they were scarier than any of that I was told that the devil was. Yeah, those people that everybody says is so nice. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? 3 years old and no, they're not nice. No, they're not nice, and I don't want to come back over here. Like the one time Mom had these friends and we went to visit, and they had these cute little mice in this little container, and they were so cute with the whiskers and he says, "You think those are cute?" Yeah. He's like, "Well, watch this," and he reached in and picked it up, and whatever was in the next tank, which I didn't. It's like all of a sudden he put the mouse in there, and all of a sudden this thing come up, and it was a snake, and it ate. Ah! No, that's not nice. That's not evil. That was Yeah, they thought that shit was funny. That red guy on that Green Hornet had nothing on the people that I've... the glimpses behind the masks they wear. Yeah, that was... So anyway, that's how he presented himself, was the red guy. And then when he talked, I am telling y'all, talk about the best conversation. Holy crap. Because what he did, it was kind of like, we were kind of like in this, what I perceive as like, Merlin or Nostradamus's chamber is how I kind of. And he had like this table type of thing, kind of like Robert Downey Jr.'s character, um, Iron Man, and his technological thing. And he had like this wizard's thing, and above it was like the world, and he was taking me through the history of the world. It's kind of, but it's been so. I wish I'd have got all this down when it really happened, because that was more detailed. Then the further out I'm out from it, the more of the details that I forget. So I had to tune back in, and I really don't want to tune back in because I've already processed this, and I don't want to keep repeating stuff. Anyway, but what had happened was, and he took me through the history of the world, and it was so freaking cool the way he did it. And the way he presented it, and it was brilliant, and it was awesome, but he forgot certain things that I knew that he was glossing over. And it's like he was zhuzhing things. And I could tell that he was zhuzhing things. It was odd. So anyway, and then I called him on it. I was like, what about show me Jesus. Show me the Jesus stuff. I want to see that. Because I had gone to the Holy Land experience with Tony took me and the kids when we went to Florida, and we went to Disney and the Islands of Adventures. Man, that was so much fun. And I was told the Islands of Adventures has been closed, and I am heartbroken over that, y'all. I ain't even gonna lie. Heartbroken. How did they... Anyway. So, and when I asked about Jesus, that is when he flipped on a dime, and everything that I thought was cool about him and fascinating, he still was brilliant, but yeah, that's when he took me into memories of my son that I thought were wonderful. And he started with this one, and he let me feel what I remembered how it was for me as I experienced it. And it was amazing, and I just, and then there was, as I was experiencing it in that remembrance, I was noticing bits and pieces that I was too in the moment to pay attention to, that I was able to while reviewing it. So anyway, it's how I remember that. And then, so it was cool. And then he looped it back around and played it again. Yet this time, he took it and showed me little more and little more and little more of things like what my son was thinking in his head, and he took it, every memory like that, he took it and busted it down and made it into the most horrible, awful thing. He made it out like my son was thinking in his head, I wish she'd just get out of my room, and and it was horrible. And he took my good memory and made it into this awful, horrible thing. And this is not the way I remember it. And then when he busted it down to the most awful thing and took it away, took that memory and bastardized it and ruined it, he tore me apart like Scotty on Star Trek would, and they would teleport to other planets or whatever. It was like that. He broke me down in molecular levels, and as he was pulling me to the next memory to start the same pattern of showing the memory and then breaking it down to the most horrible thing, as I was broken down in those little molecular It was the most horrific pain in every bit of my sweet little being as I was being pulled from one memory that he just destroyed into another that he was trying to do the same with. And then I noticed that it was, once he did it a couple times, it like became a loop of the same thing. And I got to the point, it's like, well, this is weird. And then I just kind of was like removed from it. And I was like, this is really weird. How are you doing that? And I'm like, no more of this, because I noticed what he was showing was only certain memories, and there was the other memories he couldn't fucking touch because they were hallowed ground. They were holy because God was with me, and those memories that he was showing were ones that were just kind of in the moment that we really weren't paying too much mind to, and we weren't as tuned into Father praying. But the other ones where we were really tuned in and laughing and having, he couldn't touch those. Yeah, us sitting around doing the Mystery Science 3000 shit. Because we had to think, man, me and them kids and Tony, we loved going and getting movies and sitting around. And if it was a bad movie, then we would sit there and spoof the fuck out of it. And y'all, my kids are hilarious and creative. Holy crap, are they funny. My son has been an actor at the local haunt that closed recently, Hacker House. Yeah, and he's really... oh my god, they are brilliant and they're hilarious. Seriously, that was what I am very attracted. That was the thing that drew me to their dad, was he's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That man was taught himself to read the encyclopedia at 3 years old. He was a weirdo. He was very unexpected. And I had a lot of fun with him. I did. I had a lot of... Like I said, he's the one I snuck into the pool at the hotel and swimming with. Yeah, we got into... We had a lot of fun. Yeah, we got our first apartment together. And then we lived together like 2 years. And then... yeah. Got married and then just right away. Wow, we just got married. We were going to do the 5-year plan. And travel and I don't regret a bit of it because I knew I was going to be a mama. It's just quicker than I expected. Wow. Because I was on birth control, y'all. And it wasn't that I didn't want her. It's just we were trying to do it in a very responsible way. So I was 19 when I got pregnant with her. It was right before my 20th birthday. We got married January 27th. And my birthday's February 25th. So right after we got married. Because she was supposed to be on October 31st. 1989. Anyway, she wound up being... I was induced October 11th. Anyway. So, yeah. But he didn't take me into any memories with my daughter. He didn't take me any memories of anybody else. He started with my son. And he could only get to a couple, and he had it on loop. It's like, wait a minute. And then I was like, this is bullshit. Fuck this. No. I'm like, Jesus! And I'm like, no. You ain't got no power here. And then I called out to Father. And when I did, I was lightning bolt, bzzzt, and I am not kidding when I tell you I was lightning bolted back, boom, into this body. I came back. And yeah. So very, 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 very weird. So but yeah, he didn't touch any other memories of anybody else. But you talk about terrifying until I caught on to no, because I kept saying this is bullshit. No, no, this is not real. This is not. No, I don't believe it. Mm-mm. No, no. And then, like I said, tearing me down in the pain. But I came back together in another memory. Because there was something about my will and every bit of it. I fought every bit of it. No, no, this is not. I ain't allowing this. And somehow I was pulled back into another memory, but I don't remember much about it. It was the first one. Because it's like, no, this is bullshit. So anyway, and that, like I said, when I caught on to that, and I was like, no, but you can show me how you do that. That's cool. Yeah, show me how you do that. No, that's stupid and that's weak. No, because really you could be doing a lot of good stuff with that kind of ability and stuff. You could do so much good with that. What is the stupidity? Why would you waste such brilliance, such energy that could be put to resolutions and solutions? I don't. Anyway, so that's how I remember that, and being zoinked back into my body. And that was in 2013. But I had weird stuff happen in 2012. But yeah, it's been some really, really fascinating, interesting, energetic entanglements I've had throughout the years at different places. Very specific, important places. Energetic entanglements. Do you know that they say that we're 9 strangers removed from anybody on the earth? I wonder how true that really is. Anyway. Energetic entanglements. And the weird pingings I've had on my spidey senses about Shem and Melchizedek and Shem's wife. Because that was one of the things on Loki 3978 I had. Because I go through the Bible thing. And look, the devil has a hand in writing that Bible. Because he knows that Bible backwards and forwards. He knows it better than any preachers. He's there when it's written. He helped write it. Absolutely. Tower of Babel. So, which wolves are you feeding? So, yeah. And the casting out of demons. Casting out of demons is very real. What wolves are you feeding? What thoughts? What attitudes? What mindsets? What actions? You are responsible for all of it. And it's a weighing of hearts, people. Go and sin no more. You live with intention. Transparency. Keep your hearts light as feathers, pleading the blood of Jesus. Why do you think they put blood over the doorways? The doorway, your heart, your mind, your thoughts, your eyes, your ears. Guard your heart, guard your thoughts, guard your tongue. Because what you speak, thoughts become things. Let's let it be love. Love always wins. Anyway, trying to figure out what's going on with my phone. Because like I said, what a world. Anyway, mucho levo. I hope I got all of that expressed beautifully. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about too, is the beautiful tuning ins that I've had with my tree friends and the beautiful impressions they put on my soul. I wish I could put to words the beautiful things that they have exchanged with me that I can't. Anyway, I love y'all. I hope you're loving yourselves. And y'all stay in your peace. Weeble, but don't. Weeble and wobbles, but don't. You can't. Ain't no way they can keep you down. Know that you are loved. Mind your thoughts. Stay in your peace. Weeble and wobble, you don't fall down. Watch what wolves you're feeding. And be kind, starting with yourselves, babies. Love you. You love you too, okay?